Nature-based solutions, like restoring forests or protecting wetlands, are powerful tools in the fight against climate change and biodiversity loss. But not all projects are created equal. In this episode, we speak with Olly Bolton, co-founder of Earthly, a climate tech company that helps businesses invest in high-quality, trustworthy, nature-based solutions around the world. Olly shares insights from his entrepreneurial journey, how his beginnings focusing on health products brought him to put mission at the front and center of all his professional endeavors, currently leading Earthly. Think of it as a bridge between companies and vetted ecosystem projects, using science-backed data to make sure every investment actually delivers for carbon, biodiversity, and communities. We explore how trust is being rebuilt after carbon market scandals, and why some companies are now going beyond offsets to fund full-scale regeneration. If you're thinking beyond net zero and toward lasting impact, this conversation is for you.
Hello. How
Hello.
are you doing? So
Very
good.
well.
We just
Very
talked
well.
about it. Finally, we managed.
I know.
Yes.
We made it work.
We made it work. We made it work. What a crazy time right now, no? I'm sitting right now here in Ibiza. It's actually raining like crazy. Where are you based right now?
I'm in West London, in the wild west of London, near Kew Gardens.
Oh, nice. Is it raining there too, or is it nice London weather?
Do you know what? Actually, it's been surprisingly pleasant this week. So yeah, no, we've been. I'm in my attic, so it gets quite hot. But no, I can't complain. I'm happier when it's sunny. Everyone's in a better mood. So.
Well, that's very good. So is Earthly as well based in London, or are you all over the place?
Yeah, we're a UK registered business, but the team is spread around Europe and Africa, and we have a colleague in India. So we're really distributed, fully remote.
Nice. Can you talk, like, we'll talk a lot about nature, actually one of my favorite topics as well. If you go back, like thinking about the first time when you connected with nature, was there like a little seed moment that eventually led to Earthly?
I think I've always had a passion for the natural world, and I've been lucky that I was brought up in the countryside in West Sussex. So, we lived on a river surrounded by National Trust, kind of nature parkland. So I think I've always kind of had it in my life. And I remember as a young child going on walks with my parents, into the woods and, spending a lot of time in nature and holidays down in Cornwall, going rock pooling, looking for little creatures, which is something that I love to do with my family now as well. So yeah, I think I've had it throughout my life, and it's kind of been there and definitely influenced where I am now.
Oh, I'm also such a fan of nature. I grew up in the Bavarian Alps, so very much linked to, one part is agriculture, but also just to the nature. And I loved like just being out there and, thinking about how childhood is now and how childhood was then. Like it was kind of leaving a dog out, they just opened the door and you just went to the nature. 6 hours later, you came back totally dirty.
Yeah.
And that was so nice. So I can really relate to that. When before you started Earthly, you actually did something totally different, and which was like a drink, right? Like
it was health drinks. Yeah, I mean, it was quite random. And when I was at university, I had the idea for a health drink, and I met some people that liked the idea and encouraged me to put together a business plan, and ended up investing, and it kind of went from there. So I really randomly kind of fell into the health drinks industry, and before Earthly and moving into nature tech and climate tech, that's where I spent most of my career. So thrown in the deep end, and it's an incredibly competitive area. So it was a really interesting experience, to launch my first business into the soft drinks industry, the health drinks industry.
So what did you study?
I studied marketing and management, but actually I dropped out of uni to do this drink. So I joke with my colleagues, I'm the least qualified person in the company, probably unemployable, which is why I need to create my own thing. But yeah, no, it's been interesting. We joke about that, but I've learned a lot hands-on, with different projects over the years.
So what was it about? It was a vitamin water, something like that. It's actually similar to, this vitamin water, which you get probably right now, right? Everywhere, like magnesium in it and whatever is in there.
This is it. Yeah, it had vitamins and herbal extracts and various minerals, and yeah, the whole idea was it was gearing you up for preventative nutrition, so helping prevent you getting ill. Preventative maintenance was the kind of the focus. So
What
yeah, that
happened with
was
it? What happened with
yeah.
it?
So there's been a few different brands over the years, but I was lucky that I sold one of our first brands, drinks brands, to our main export distributor. So that was a good outcome from there. And then the other brand we continued for a bit, and then we decided to discontinue. But it was we took it through the B Corp process. So we were the first soft drinks or health drinks company in Europe to be a B Corp, which was quite a fun thing to have done back in 2015. I think there were 60 B Corps in the UK, so we were one of the very first. But it's and I think that whole B Corp experience kind of also led into to Earthly and creating a company with impact at its heart. But yeah, it's lots of learnings from that industry that have kind of gone into Earthly and the work that we do now. And there was also a subscription nutrition health business that I co-founded called Vital, which is still going, which John, my co-founder, has been running and doing an amazing job. So, and there's been other businesses as well, which I won't bore you with now.
Busy, like once you start unemployable, now it can lead to multiple
Well, this
companies.
is it. Yeah, this is it. Something like that. Yeah.
So what did you take over as a lesson learned, or what connects them?
Yeah, well, I think that the impact side, the health side of the drinks business was always something I was really passionate about. And so the natural evolution was becoming a B Corp. And then that really opened my eyes holistically, looking at a company, people, planet, profit. And actually I got to meet loads of other amazing founders from other B Corps and learned about what they were doing. And so that really got me thinking about how could you create a company with impact at its heart from the very outset. And essentially that's what Earthly is. We're designed to maximize the positive impact for carbon, biodiversity, and people. So I think that would be the thread, more health focused at the beginning, but evolving into wider impact. And the way I kind of look at things is, if we don't have a healthy planet, then it's pointless us being healthy ourselves, because we don't have a home to exist on.
So when you started Earthly, maybe you can take me a little bit on a journey there. When you started Earthly, what was the intention? Like you just mentioned one or two ones. What was the intention, and where are you standing right now? Did it shift to something else? Like especially thinking about the crazy changes we've been through, the waves of changes we've been through. I would love to hear a little bit more about that journey, how it was from the beginning, and where do you stand now?
So I think for me, the two big things that led to Earthly, one was the birth of my son. He's now 8. And thinking about his future, and actually it was about a future conversation with him where he would say, look, Dad, your generation knew the severity of the problem. Why didn't you do more? And kind of challenging me, which absolutely petrified me. What would I say to him? And then the other thing was just being aware of the issue, the not only the climate crisis, but the biodiversity crisis. And we've had the IPCC reports and really looking at the data and understanding the severity of the situation. And it was a combination of those two things. We're like, look, I need to create something, and partnered with my co-founder, Lorenzo, who was at a similar age child at the time. And, really looking at the funding gap to nature. We have this huge $700 billion a year funding gap. Why is that? It's around trust. It's around project quality. And we decided to focus on nature-based solutions because they deliver a third of the climate carbon mitigation that we need and 100% of the biodiversity, while supporting the just transition and communities, with an income and health and general support. So that was kind of the journey behind it.
So this is how you started. Is the things you thought about at the beginning, was there some totally misconception in the end, where you thought like, that we got totally wrong during that journey?
I think at the beginning, everyone was just coming to carbon tunnel vision. So we were always trying to beat the biodiversity and social drum. And it's been really rewarding to see with the Montreal Agreement and the 30 by 30 commitment, biodiversity is really kind of now much more understood compared to 5 years ago, 6 years ago. So I think that's one thing to kind of call out. And I think perhaps the other thing was, we looked at the consumer side of things at the beginning, and where we ended up is focusing on businesses and helping businesses, because we feel that can be the kind of the path to biggest impacts. Consumers can obviously support those companies, understanding their impact on nature and supporting nature protection and regeneration. But we felt like that was the best area for focus for impact. So that's where we've been, laser focused for the last sort of 5 years. Started off with smaller companies, and now we're focused on the bigger enterprise clients and helping them find and invest in some of the best nature-based projects around the world.
There has been, around South Pole, there has been a lot of discussion. I think that was last year, right? When it totally collapsed in that sense.
Yeah.
Are you actually offering valid solutions to the companies one on the voluntary carbon credit market, but also like on the biodiversity side? Did that affect you, and how did you mitigate that, or how could you circumvent that you still, these big companies can put trust in you and what you're doing?
Well, I think, look, we took a decision at the very beginning of Earthly to make quality our main thing. So we developed an assessment that looks at 106 quality indicators, evenly split across carbon, biodiversity, and people. So as the scandals have kind of hit the market, whether that's through media coverage or specific scandals linked to companies, it's in a way indirectly helped us in a way, because the appetite from companies is still there to support nature, but they really want to make sure that they find the right projects. So to give you an insight, we screened 400 nature-based projects last year, and only 8% met our minimum standards across those 106 indicators. So we've seen the challenges that the market has, but through our assessment screening tool, we're able to de-risk nature investments for our corporate clients and find the most impactful projects around the world for carbon, biodiversity, and people.
And you don't manage them yourself. You're more like the broker in between, right?
Yeah, we're part broker, we're part ratings agency, we're part consultant. So there's and with the voluntary biodiversity credits we've launched, we have our own ledger for managing that product as well. So we're a combination of different things, but ultimately for bigger clients, it's not just about de-risking from a quality perspective. It's also about the financial planning. And so we're doing a lot more work around fixed forward contracts, origination, bringing new projects to market for bigger clients that require million tons of credits to meet net zero obligations over the coming years. And essentially just brokering fair pricing, short-term pricing, long-term pricing between project developers and companies, and just finding that balance. And so, we like to de-risk things from a reputational perspective by making sure the projects meet minimum standards and are really delivering what they say they're delivering. But on the other hand, it's fairly priced for both the project developers and the companies that we work with over a period of time as well. So those are the kind of the two areas that we're really focused on.
So you kind of like give the quality stamp, like if they work with you, it's like the quality management of that. Is that kind of your USP, you would say?
Yeah, I think so. We ingest a lot of data we have 7 different layers of data that we take in to screen these 106 quality indicators. And we ingest data from a lot of ratings agencies. We find that they're very focused on carbon. And so, with 2/3 of our assessment being beyond carbon, we cross-reference their data with our data. But, in a way, I'd say the ratings part of what we do is really our core thing. And although the difference is, if it's a great project, we'll share the data back with them. So we do have a dialogue with project developers, and if there's 1 or 2 quality indicators where they're failing, we'll share a gap analysis. We'll say, look, and by the way, speak to these people here. They've had a similar issue, and this is how they've got around it. So we do want to share best practice, and we want to raise the bar of quality across the market in general. And have that two-way dialogue. We've been consulting with a couple of projects as well, helping them, using our assessment to help them design, more impactful projects. So there's that element too. And interestingly, that's led us towards this fund that we're now developing out, because we've identified amazing developers around the world, but we have the framework of how to design the best project to optimize for carbon, biodiversity, and people. So we're kind of de-risking that side of the fund. And then on the other side, we have a growing number of corporates who are looking for offtakes, so we can plug in that demand as well.
So you're raising a fund right now to invest actually into developers yourself.
Exactly. Into natural capital projects. So we'll be helping developers bring new projects online to really try and accelerate the nature, protection and restoration that's needed around the world.
And what would you say, nature-based solutions is a very broad perspective. Many people understand a lot of different things, the same like regenerative agriculture.
Yeah.
But what do you understand? What is for you nature-based solutions?
So we I don't know if you know Griscom's work, sort of professor who's been involved, and he's mapped out the opportunity for nature-based solutions through protection, management, and restoration. But nature-based solutions includes things like regenerative agriculture, as you said, grasslands, peatlands, afforestation, reforestation, blue carbon, mangroves, kelp, seagrass. So really, really broad. But what we're doing is we are building out our portfolio to match the kind of the global opportunity for different ecosystems and interventions. For example, around 40% is the opportunity for regenerative agriculture. So we're looking to align 40% of our portfolio around that, rather than just focusing on the fashionable stuff. To really also push money to the protection side. And I know Red Plus has had a really difficult time in recent months, years, but the bottom line is we can't regenerate land that's been destroyed back to how it was, because some of these areas have taken thousands, tens of thousands of years to become as biodiverse as they are. So having a mechanism to protect them is so important. So we advise all clients to have a blended portfolio looking at carbon removal, but also avoided emissions to protect some of these amazing biodiverse areas.
So if I would be a brewery and say, I would like to do more in nature-based solutions, how would you address it? Like, how would a project like this, how would you start it? How would it look like?
So I'd say our clients kind of fall into two categories. On the one side is the net zero carbon focused. They typically have a commitment date, 2035. So we're helping them with their offset the residual footprint as part of that net zero commitment. They're typically science-based targets aligned. They have really ambitious reduction targets. So we're kind of feeding in longer term there for the future. And then the other half of our clients are, they're more regenerative businesses. So they're lower impact. They're looking to embed nature support into their business model. So it might be committing 10% of profits to nature. And in that case, we can be a lot more flexible on the types of projects. We can integrate voluntary biodiversity credits. We can integrate nature innovation, projects like coral reef regeneration, where there's no carbon or biodiversity credits associated, but still really important work. So I think first of all is understanding what type of company are they, and excitingly, the regenerative type businesses are becoming more and more popular. So we are always encouraging clients to go above and beyond net zero where possible, because we need that ambition in the market to achieve the goals that we need to stay on the planet.
So you've been, I think, 6-7 years now, right? Like 6-7 years. So I think everybody's seen the incredible spike during COVID and afterwards, and many companies are struggling right now in fundraising and in actually staying in the market. Have you not been affected by all of these trends of like reversing or like, let's say, more focusing on, I got a very nice term from another podcast, sustainable profitability?
Yeah, I think it's definitely the last few years have been harder for sure. And it's I think given the challenges and the scandals that have happened in the market, it's the general perception of carbon credits is bad, bad offsets. So we've had to tackle that narrative, and as I've said, 92% of the projects that we screened failed our minimum standards, but those 8% that are out there, they're really, really good. And it just so happens that a carbon credit is still the best mechanism to get money to these projects. So I think with the right screening, we've really tried to tackle that narrative. But yeah, for sure, it's been challenging. One of the other things that we've really focused on is the return for businesses. So that could be by supporting a project, they might be able to boost their sales, they might be able to boost engagement, customer retention, customer acquisition, employee retention and acquisition. And as kind of dirty as some of these things might be, if you can make it a commercial success to support nature, then I think that's a great lever to get mass market mainstream companies investing in nature protection and regeneration, beyond just sustainability minded companies. So I think that's been a big focus for us. And we've seen lots of success stories with our clients where they've had that return and they've been able to get buy-in from their finance team or from their marketing team. So it's not just been the sustainability manager that's been championing this. They've seen this return through one or several of those bits that I mentioned. So I think that's a really important, especially in the economic climate that we're in, important area to look at as well.
So coming back to the brewery, are you also doing supply chain integration? Kind of like, that's what I've seen in other projects, that they actually take nature-based solutions, thinking about, okay, what is our supply chain and how can we improve within our supply chain? Have you had projects like that?
Yeah, we've been involved in some insetting, sort of supply chain related insetting projects, but we have really tried to focus on the screening nature-based projects. And we have lots of amazing partners, consultants that we work with. We refer to our clients that can also help with more bespoke needs. So depending on the sector that the company that we're dealing with is in, we'll have specialists or we'll have partners that we can refer them to for carbon reduction or for biodiversity footprinting, which is really complex, or whatever they might need. So we've built up a network of trusted partners that we work with, and we've really tried to become experts in the nature-based project screening and the design and the future fixed forward purchases and origination of nature-based projects.
If you would have the power to redesign the carbon market, which you just addressed, from scratch, what would you remove and what would you add, or what would you change?
Well, I think what's been really interesting is that the surge in the MRV, the monitoring, reporting, verification technologies that we have now, the rise of like geospatial satellite data. So if we were able to have the sort of scientific technology to prove and to monitor from 20 years ago, that would have avoided so many of the issues that we've had. So if I could have one wish, it would be to bring the technology backwards, so we have it 20 years earlier to, along with the learnings that we have. The market's really evolved. And looking at now the voluntary biodiversity space, there are so many learnings from the carbon markets that, to be avoided with the voluntary biodiversity market as well.
What would you avoid?
Well, I think it's having really, really robust data, whether it's baseline data, whether it's ongoing monitoring data through the MRV areas that I mentioned. We've now got eDNA and bioacoustics, and as well as great detailed geospatial data to use to really understand what's happening almost in real time. So integrating those technologies from the outset. What I would love to see is global consensus around an approach, and the carbon market is still quite fragmented, and there's lots of different approaches, and you've got things like the core carbon principles trying to bring things together, but it's still very complex. So with the biodiversity market, I'd love to see global consensus over what a good voluntary biodiversity credit looks like. And there's definitely appetite to achieve that. You've got groups like BSI who are working on their nature markets frameworks, and the International Panel for Biodiversity Credits, which I sit on the measurements working group, are also trying to bring global consensus. So I think everyone understands the importance of having a global playbook for voluntary biodiversity credits, and are working hard to try and achieve that.
Would it be that billboard sentence you just said, which you would put out? So if you could have a chance to put a message on a billboard seen by millions of people, let's say the New York, the Times Square, what would it say?
I think the thing that I keep on going back to is just people need to understand, like, we are deeply connected to nature. Yeah, we are nature. Nature is a part of us. And so I think if the billboard could say that, could articulate that, and could help people understand the importance of protecting and restoring nature because it's a part of us, and we need it for our survival, I think that would be the message I would like to try and get through. So I don't know how you'd articulate that in a billboard campaign.
Reconnect to nature. Well, we are nature.
Yeah, it's kind of, we are nature. I think, There we are. Maybe let's get the t-shirts made.
Yeah, we are nature. It's actually a very good one. I think that's actually summarizes that humankind is always extracting himself or itself from nature.
Yeah.
And saying like nature and us. Like it is really strange.
It is. Yeah.
And at the same time, like I had someone in regenerative agriculture and said, like, it's not that the planet would be better without us in that sense. We were actually always part of the planet. So we were grooming the planet as well and helped the nature to grow and etc. And that we just totally lost the perspective on that we are nature. It's a very, very nice way. So it's a very mission-driven company you're building there.
I think it has to be, I think we have no choice but to be. I mean, the mission is to for our survival in a way. So it just doesn't get bigger than that, really. Like if you're and it's sort of, so we're trying to do our small part towards that bigger thing. So our company mission is to protect and restore at least 1% of the planet by 2030. So it's 150 million hectares. So the origination deals that we're looking at, the fund, all critical to scaling up and getting to that goal. So
that's 5 years, no?
5 years, yeah. Oof. Yeah. So really feeding into the 30 by 30 goal. And look, but why not be ambitious? We need to all be brave and bold with everything that we're doing. We don't have any choice but to be. So we're doing our hardest to really play our part and to bring trust back into the market and to help companies, be brave and support nature, which is needed for their companies to survive and for the individuals to survive.
So let's it needs to be more the billboard of our own survival or something like that. We need to come up with something very catchy, which makes fear-based is usually always works in marketing.
No, I actually think hope. I think hope can be more powerful than fear. Fear has a role to play, but I think So I think we need some more brainstorming, or maybe if any listeners can comment with any ideas, perhaps.
Exactly. Maybe it comes exactly that one sentence out. So, being such a mission-driven company and this 5 years you have ahead of you, if you would need to pinpoint it down, and you said before, laser focus is very important for you. Can you pinpoint it to one or two things you think like this needs to happen so we can reach our 1% goal?
Lots of things need to happen, but I think that, look, this 30 by 30 agreement that's happened around the world is such a monumental thing, but where everyone is tracking behind. So I think if we can hold our elected government leaders to account to deliver what they've already agreed, then that will just feed into all of the projects around the world, and it will feed into company strategies. And so I think, governments backing what they've agreed to could be the biggest, thing to really move the dial.
Mm. And yourself, like from your side, that's the policy side. What would be the one you think you should? Is there one thing you can actually pinpoint it down? Say like that's the most critical one.
I think delivering this fund. So we're developing out a fund for Western Australia, and delivering that, being ambitious with the fund, bringing in the right partners is going to be a key, a key thing for us to work on, to really cement our reputation, hopefully. And then the idea is once we've delivered the first fund, we can then scale, we can launch further funds, and really move the dial and make sure we get to that 150 million hectares and beyond by 2030. So that's what I'm focused on. Certainly for the next year, it looks like we've hopefully got COP31 in Australia. So getting that launched and ready and really going for then is a big focus for me.
Is it then a real asset fund? Would you buy the assets? Or is it more return on the development parts, like the money you give to the developers?
Yeah, it's raising funds for the developers, for the communities that own the land, and and then delivering a return through those ecosystem services, whether it's carbon, biodiversity, water, cultural, whatever they might be. But yeah, working closely rather than acquiring land, working closely with the custodians of project areas to recognise the value that's being delivered, and help with the regeneration of parts of land that that need help as well.
And from whom do you want to raise the funding?
So we're looking for local companies in Western Australia, and also through high net worth investors is the strategy for this specific fund. We are also planning a bigger global carbon-based fund, which will be institutional investor funded. But the priority now is on the Western Australia opportunity, but then longer term is global fund.
Wow, big thing you're approaching. Amazing.
Keeping ambitious and thinking big, and I think that's we have no choice but to.
How do you keep yourself motivated in all of this?
Well, it's like it helps doing something you love, so I think that's a big. But like for me, I have a hobby. I have a YouTube channel called Wilding Earth, where I go and I do mini nature documentaries on mainly UK projects, but I get to meet people who are involved firsthand, who are the pioneers in the local nature restoration here, and I get to learn from them one-on-one, and I get to share the hopeful stories that are happening here at home. And so I've loved doing that. I've done 8 episodes now, and I've got quite a few in the pipeline that I'm really excited to go and see. So yeah, that's become a bit of a hobby and gives me a lot of hope, and hopefully, from the feedback I get, gives a lot of people that watch them hope as well. So that's a big focus.
It is like, we want to have a global impact, but in the end, it feels very real if it's a small community and giving that instant impact as well.
Well, I think there's so many amazing projects around the world. I'd love to go and cover more internationally, but it's just the logistics and being away from my family, the environmental impact of traveling to the places. So that's why I've kind of focused locally. But I do try and publish on LinkedIn about global, great global projects as well, because people aren't aware of the amazing stuff that's happening today. And we have hundreds of thousands of projects around the world that are happening right now. And so if it can help give people a bit of hope, if it can help inspire others to work on their own nature restoration protection projects, then I hope in a small way it kind of contributes towards that as well.
Maybe a podcast soon.
Yeah, maybe.
Amazing. I love that. I love having this small project. And I just had my first in-person video podcast.
Nice.
And it was such a different thing. If you
Yeah.
see the people and if you have that personal interaction, it's very different. I still do all the normal video podcasts, what we're doing right now, because as you said, you cannot travel everywhere. You still want to give them a voice in that
Yeah.
sense. And so that's for me how I structured it, and saying I want to do more video podcasts in person, like in Switzerland, maybe in Germany, where I'm based, but still giving the opportunity through online, which is also amazing, to speak to a lot of cool founders like you.
Yeah, no, I think it's a nice balance if you can do in person local stuff and then also do international online. And we have all these amazing tools available to create these high quality remote sort of podcasts and things. So might as well make the most of them.
Was there a book or a film or a conversation that has changed how you see your role in climate?
I think it's always changing, really. I'm always learning and understanding, and I think what I touched on earlier, what I've loved is some of the really niche stuff that we were looking at is now becoming more mainstream. And you've got, for ages I was really frustrated how bottom trawling has been allowed in marine protected areas. You'd think a marine protected area is protected from bottom trawling, and we've just had David Attenborough's ocean film. A big part of that is talking about this very issue, so it's now front of center. People are aware of this. I think I've loved how media is helping the mainstream and the mass market understand these challenges and opportunities and success stories, and how that's kind of always ever evolving. It feels like there's a real momentum around nature protection and restoration that's kind of continuing to build, which involves rewilding and involves all of these different approaches. So it's a great time to be alive, at the beginning of this green transition, the beginning of this wave of everything happening. So I'm really excited for the decades ahead.
Was there something totally absurd or funny happening in your journey?
I think I mentioned obviously with my son that kind of the thought about
Yeah.
that future conversation. I think as well, like I experience firsthand the changes, whether that's the insects or lack of insects in my garden, and so I think these experiences also like really feed into like why am I doing this, and help me be even more motivated to accelerate and do more and be more ambitious. So it's all it's the little things, all add up. And I think for me with my kids, as I touched on at the beginning, we go to Cornwall every summer, and I take them rock pooling, and like seeing their kind of passion with nature and looking at the little prawns and crabs that we get in their buckets when we go crabbing, and sort of living again through their eyes. They're kind of the mystic and like the magic of nature is really rewarding, and again like helps motivate me and get me kind of excited for what we're doing.
If you could spend one silent day anywhere on the planet to recharge, just you and the nature, where would you go and why?
I think I would probably there's so many places I'd like to go I haven't been able to go to yet, but probably to go to maybe like Antarctica. I'd actually maybe like to see some of maybe to like the polar ice caps, actually see them melting and actually see that. I think maybe that would be like just really interesting to actually and quite kind of moving, I guess, to actually see in real time the effects that the temperature changes are happening to our planet. So I think maybe spending a day wouldn't maybe be the happiest, but I think it would be important to see it. I'd like to see it.
So you want to be silent freezing in
Yeah,
Antarctica,
yeah,
looking at how they melt.
yeah. I
Oh.
think, yeah,
Oh, okay. Oh, okay, cool. What a choice, amazing. Like you can see the mission throughout. Like, okay, what's gonna move
it's
me
kind
to
of
be
ground
more?
zero, isn't it? It's ground zero, like seeing the ice melting on such a huge scale, because it's so easy here away from there for us to forget about actually those crazy changes that are happening right now.
That's what I see living in Switzerland. Switzerland actually warmed up over 2 degrees already in the last 100 years. It's one of the few countries already in Europe. And you can see it. Like if you go to the glaciers skiing, like this is insane. I used to ski from November till end of April.
Yeah.
And now it's like, ooh, sometimes we don't even have White Christmas. It's like from mid of January till end of March.
Wow.
And I think this is really where you really feel it. Like every year I'm going. And of course, sometimes you have great winters. You think like, oh, this has been a great winter. But the trend is totally melting away. It's water skiing instead of real skiing. And I think I totally agree. It's then in this moment, you really realize, oh my God, this is changing. It's changing fast.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's a sobering reminder. And look, don't get me wrong, part of me would love to go to see some of the most biodiverse locations. I'd love to go to Gabon, I'd love to go to, there's loads of places where where intact nature exists. I feel like it's more important to see the slightly more depressing stuff, the slightly more sobering, to understand what we're losing, than to sort of see the amazing, beautiful, biodiverse, rich habitat still, which I would like to also see, but as a second.
So to finish our podcast, I would like to test on you a new concept, what we thought about. It's kind of like a fireside one. So I give you 2 options and you need to decide for one option. And then if you want, you can put a sentence and why to it.
Okay.
So protection or reforestation?
Protection, because as I said, sometimes you can't reforest because it's taken tens of thousands of years for something to be as biodiverse as it is, and it just can't be restored or regenerated.
Meditation or running?
I think meditation, because it's more accessible and you can squeeze in. It's easier to kind of integrate into your schedule. It's less excuses to not do it.
Carbon credits or biodiversity credits?
I think biodiversity credits, just because there's a great opportunity to get the voluntary biodiversity credit market to create a better, stronger, more resilient market compared to the carbon market. And yeah, it just needs more attention, needs more focus. Carbon already has a lot, and biodiversity is something really trying to push as well. We see a huge opportunity there.
University degree or no degree?
I don't care. When we recruit, I don't look at the degrees. I've never looked at, on someone's CV, I've never looked at their school or university education. And maybe that's because I'm biased because I don't have a degree, but I'm much more interested in their work experience that they've had in their career.
Nature enabled or technology enabled?
I mean, I'm a geek and I love nature tech, but I think nature enabled. We don't need to overcomplicate things. Nature is so incredibly complex and magical, and the details of stuff happening is just beyond our wildest comprehension. So I think, it's got to be nature enabled.
Cool. Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
We're at the end of our podcast. Yeah. It was really nice to speak to you.
Likewise. Thank you for having me.
To have that conversation. I really enjoyed it. And I hope what you proclaimed is that what we need. And let's brainstorm about this billboard and what we will put on our t-shirts. I want to have that t-shirt.
Me too. No, let's do it.
Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining today's episode. You can find show notes, background materials, and guest details on our website, sustainnow.ch. If you enjoyed this conversation, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Got an idea for a future episode or an interesting solution we should explore? Let us know in the comments or visit sustainnow.ch to get in touch. See you in the next episode.